Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crypto Hipster Podcast. This is your host, Jamil Hassan, the Crypto Hipster, where I interview founders, entrepreneurs, executives, thought leaders, artists, you name it, all over the world of crypto and blockchain. And today I have another amazing guest. He is actually, I'm really looking forward to this interview. Um, yeah, he is JD Seraphine. He is with the founder and CEO of Raiinmaker with two eyes. I want to find out what that's all about. JD, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jamil.
You're very welcome. So let me ask you first. I'll ask you, what's your background, and is it a logical background for what you're doing now?
I mean, I don't know what logical is in the day. I feel like we're in Alice in Wonderland a little bit sometimes, Jamil. So I don't know what logical is. But what I'll say is this: like, my passion has always been around creating impact in the world. So ever since I was, call it in my late teens, early 20s, I was searching for how can I, make maximum positive impact with my life. And first, I started out in the entertainment industry, focused on telling stories and using that as the medium that I would be making that impact. And I would call myself like a true producer, which means not just on the business or financial side or creative side, but kind of straddling both. And I think anyone who's ever produced on the media side understands that it's very entrepreneurial in nature. So every single movie project, every TV project, it's almost like its own company, right? So standing it up, raising the capital, running it, operations, finance, legal. So I actually think all the work that I did, and I was a lot on the business side and finance side, but again, also as a true producer, I'm very creative inherently. And so I think it really did prepare me to step into that role as like a founder, as an entrepreneur. And, to me, when I look at where we are as a species, we're at a critical juncture. We have a finite amount of time to make an evolutionary leap. And I feel like renegade entrepreneurs are part of the key to us actually, having the potential to do that, or having the potential for humanity to like make this leap in this critical moment. And so for me, once you wake up and you realize the time that we're in right now and the opportunity that exists when you use technology to make that leap, that's where it was like, coming into the blockchain space in 2017, seeing the potential for crypto to empower people financially, seeing the potential for, blockchain to be this layer almost to power what I would call the solution revolution, which is, again, this idea that humans around the planet in a decentralized way, stepping up to face challenges that they're uniquely equipped to solve in their own, in their own region, in their own city, in their own town, in their own industry. That I believe is the key to unlocking a golden age for humanity. And it's not going to be all perfect. It's just, I say that in the sense that I believe we can be empowered, especially now with the combination of AI and Web3 in a way that wasn't even possible, even 5, 10, 15 years ago. And so that gets me excited and to be, have come from a background where, you come up in the entertainment industry, it can be about as nasty and dirty as any space on the planet. So I think it's helped prepare me in some ways to just navigate some of the pitfalls of being in crypto. I've been fortunate to connect with a lot of amazing folks in the space in our industry, particularly that share that commitment to not just make money, but to actually create a better world. And I think everything that Raiinmaker is about and everything that I'm about at its core that's the North Star that we're driving towards in terms of the products we're building, technology we've created, and where we're driving as a company.
Sounds good so far. I want to find out what Raiinmaker is all about, and I also want to find out. I thought it was a spelling error. Apparently, it's not. So why the two eyes?
Well, that's actually what's funny is the core of our like brand DNA. So the token that is the utility token that runs on our protocol is coin with two eyes, and then Raiinmaker with two eyes. The idea is that the two eyes represent the economic value of that peer-to-peer connection. That's really central to the whole value proposition of what blockchain, in this whole crypto and decentralization movement is about, which is what is the value of our peer-to-peer connection? When we transact in the digital world, when we connect, there's an inherent value. And I think a lot of founders in the space, I feel we've been focused on, when you break it down, how do you formalize this informal value of human connection? that right now is being monetized and exploited by centralized companies. And so the two eyes in our brand really speaks to at the center of the core of saying, how do we rewire the global economy so that we can better measure, track, and then democratize the distribution of the value that's connected to that, that human to human connection, or that human to human, interaction or transaction. So that's what the two eyes represents.
That's a good question. How do we rewire it?
I mean, I think that's the trillion-dollar question, right, Jamel? So I think there's a lot. I don't think it's about one. I'm in terms of blockchain infrastructure and networks. Like, I have more of an open asset, open framework perspective personally. Like, I'm not a maxi. I don't believe that it's just should be all in one layer or one network. I believe that networks that are developed with a specific focus and specialization meant to solve a specific problem around, again, formalizing that informal value. So let's just take a look at the sports or even fan engagement sector as one kind of vertical that we could talk about, right? That's an obvious one. There's all this informal value of people that are fans and passionate about something, and they're talking about it. And if you talk to sports teams, and we're working with a few right now, there's stuff we haven't announced that I won't get into specifically, but there's products that we're developing it specifically in that vertical, and saying for sports and entertainment to say, okay, what is the value that each fan's interaction kind of represents in this larger ecosystem? How do you quantify that? And honestly, everything we're doing on the AI front, it also looks at it kind of with a similar, really everything with Raiinmaker from the beginning, it has a similar set of ingredients, which is when you take identity / reputation, behavior / data, and you plug that into, smart contracts, which are programmed and use machine learning to become smarter over time with more data and more information. How do you dynamically quantify the value that an individual human represents inside of any digital network environment? And so when you look at, say, fan engagement, to come back to where I started, every fan with those interactions that they're generating on social media, they're generating in real life, those all have an inherent value for the team. And the team would like to be able to create that flywheel effect of rewarding that fan for that value, but the ability for them at scale to actually, in a trustless way, actually know that this fan actually did this thing and it was worth X inside of their ecosystem, that infrastructure doesn't really exist at scale. So those are the kind of problems that companies are working to solve. And, Raiinmaker is one of those companies that's on the front lines of, pioneering, like, how do we actually solve these really hard problems around, identity, attribution, data, all there, there's kind of the same ingredients, but once you really dig down, Jamil, and go down in the rabbit hole, that's where the real challenge lies from a technical standpoint of how do you actually accomplish it.
Interesting. So you are on that. You are down that rabbit hole, right? You have created a super app, right, that empowers users to monetize their contributions. How does that work?
Yeah, so the Raiinmaker network protocol we first started developing it about 2.5, I think almost 3 years ago now. We launched testnet last August. We launched mainnet actually last week successfully. So testnet, we had over 215,000 nodes on the network. So that's real users, mobile, laptop, desktop devices, running actual DeepIn enabled validator nodes on the network. And the protocol's purpose is focused on really a very specific intersection of AI and Web3, which is the infrastructure to support scalable application of Web3 and AI for sports, gaming, and entertainment. So the idea that we built a protocol or an infrastructure that foundationally is optimized to support applications like what I was mentioning a minute ago in like a fan engagement sector, where we're able to take sports fans and quantify the value that they're contributing, not only as a fan, but then to take that data and use it to train customized AI models, which are either used for personalization or for business intelligence for the team. That's where we take all of the kind of layers of the ingredients and put them together. Now, the protocol itself, Raiinmaker Network Protocol, is the infrastructure that's powering these applications. The first application that is running on the network right now at scale is the Raiinmaker AI Super App. So essentially, 100,000 plus users have downloaded the app. They're on there right now. They're training AI models. They're running a mobile DeepIn validator node. They're participating in quests, which all of that is really like the first proving ground of this proof of concept of how do we quantify the value of each human's contribution to training AI. Now we go forward in the future. You don't talk about big question. I mean, that's as big as it gets, right? Because right now they're hoovering your data and my data, and everybody's data, and it's going into Chat GPT and Gemini and fill in the blank. Like we're all just feeding the AI, which I think there's a value to that. I'm not one of those people that's like evil centralized corporation, and I think there's a reason that I believe in decentralization as a movement, but I'm also like want to balance it against, to get to where we are now, we had to have a significant amount of centralization, and we had to have people like Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or people like that stood up large companies that have helped to drive us forward. Now, I think the next phase is about how do we now build distributed systems that empower humanity at a much greater scale to rise up, like I said, in a distributed manner to solve the problems that we're facing. But to come back to the original question, because I went on a little tangent there, the Raiinmaker app itself is focused really on quantifying the value of each user's contribution to training stable diffusion models through data labeling and human feedback. So right now, if you go on the app, you generate art or you can use your own content, you're labeling that art, and then those data annotations are used as feedback to train a stable diffusion model on the Raiinmaker network protocol. Going forward, there'll be other types of model training that we integrate into the app itself. The app users are also running a validator node on their mobile device. So again, obviously, there's not going to be like the compute power of like a bare metal server, running, on when you're running something on your phone. But it's still like, how do we again get into that supervised, distributed, AI model training, on the edge of, what can be possible on a user's mobile device. So that's the first application. Like I said, 100,000 plus downloads, iOS, Google Play. The user acquisition on the app itself is hockey sticking right now, which is nice. And that's really, the first application. It's not like, again, I want to bring it back to understanding that we built a protocol. The protocol is live. The coin token is the utility token of that protocol. And that's something that we spent years architecting. So my CTO is former Disney. He built Disney's private blockchain. He built another protocol after that. I'm not uniquely equipped to architect a blockchain protocol from a technical standpoint. I am uniquely equipped as an entrepreneur to go out and do the rest of what it takes to actually stand up and have the vision to run and lead, the business. So.
Very cool. Lots to talk about there. I want to talk about something that I wasn't planning on talking about at first. You guys are involved in, and I haven't. It's been a few 24s since I've had a conversation about NFTs. That was mostly a 2022 thing. I miss it. You guys do NFTs. So at least from what I saw on your website, you do. So I want to find out what the status of the NFTs are and how you're getting content creators back involved, because NFTs died off, 99% of them died off, right? So I want to find out what the outlook looks like.
Well, it's interesting. What's cool is as you're generating art in the application, you're able to mint it as an NFT, which is really more about just you on chain having that your own art that you created and it's yours and you own it. It's not, is there a future where that goes into a marketplace for resale? Maybe, but I mean, to be honest, Jamil, it's like, with AI generative art being something that's ubiquitous as it is, like I don't necessarily feel that that's where we're focused. Doesn't mean there isn't a value there. It's more about like, hey, you have the ability to take this unique piece of content that you created using, you and AI essentially like collaborated on, and then mint it as an NFT that you have on the on the network and on your application and in your wallet. So I think that's the extent of on the app side. We are doing stuff around more utility focused application of NFTs on multiple kind of layers of the protocol, which I've always been very bullish on. And whenever I've talked to folks, whether it was in in our industry or even in other like kind of these more massive adoption industries that we have relationships in, explain to them that look, the NFT, the PFP application of the NFT, which is that kind of more community driven content, art driven application, was cool because it definitely demonstrated some things I think that were important, but it's actually like the most limited kind of one-dimensional use of the technology. When you look at a non-fungible token and how it can operate in a networking environment and what it can empower, especially around user identity and behavior, which is again for our protocol, like at the center of the architecture with Raiinmaker Network is again taking each human's identity slash reputation and behavior, and that everything we've architected is really about the individual user. So there's NFTs that are at play in the utility standpoint, more in that soul bound, type of application in terms of how we architect the network itself. So we're utilizing NFTs there. We are going to do actually, haven't announced it, and I'm supposedly not supposed to announce stuff here before we announce it publicly, but there may be some sort of a NFT drop relative to Raiinmaker Network that's coming soon that has utility and maybe increases the earning power for validators in the network. I may have teased something, Jamil. I wasn't supposed to, but we're gonna say it here first on your show. So there you go.
Thank you. And I'm not going to ask for details. I'll wait till that comes out, then I'll bring you back on talk about how it went.
Yeah.
So very cool. So I want to talk about people are building using your model, building, or they're developing on AI. So the key is they need to do it, I believe, ethically, right? What is ethical AI development, and how is that achieved? Because you can have many actors of many different backgrounds, and some of them might be on the up and up.
I mean, look, when you talk about AI and ethics, I mean, there's a lot of rabbit holes there that go down. We could go a lot of directions with that. I think for us, our focus is we believe that the best version of the future and the best AI that we can develop is going to have as much humanity programmed into it as possible. So how do we facilitate as much human agency as possible as it relates to utilizing AI to empower the individual human? I think that's number one, has to be the number one priority. I believe that AI has this potential, like I said, to really power like a whole renaissance for humanity that we haven't even seen in our lifetimes. I don't think we've seen it in 1,000, 2,000, maybe even in our human history. I don't think we've seen the potential like we have at this moment. I know there's a lot of crazy stuff happening between politics and war and climate change, and it's like everywhere you look, you could literally just put your head in the sand and say, "Oh, geez, it's not. This looks like it's not going to turn out good." I unfortunately, or fortunately, I carry the energy that we are going to turn this thing around, and we are going to use AI as a key piece or a key tool that's going to empower the individual human to be able to level up their game and what they're contributing. And I think everything that we're engineering at Raiinmaker specifically, I can't speak to what OpenAI is doing or Apple's doing or Gemini, because that's not, I have zero control over that, and neither do you. What we can look at is who are the companies that are working with the right ethical stance and the right approach to build AI technologies and systems, or utilize AI as a tool rather inside of the technologies and systems and products they're developing to empower the individual human, to basically program AI with more humanity so that we don't have like the Terminator 2 Skynet, it's going to blow us up. And because I think that's a real thing. It's like, wait, like at some point we know that it will be so advanced that its ability to do process certain things is going to exceed humanity's. It already is, right? That's not even a question of if that will be the case. The question is, can we program it with enough humanity so that hopefully the best of what we have, meaning like that the ability to have love and empathy and things that I think separate us from other types of mammals on this planet. Not that none have it, but I think what are those things that the best of humanity? How can we program it with that? Number one, and number two, how can we leverage it as a tool to empower humanity going forward? I mean, to me, that's the most important thing. I can't speak to what Sam Altman's going to do or what Elon or Bezos or these guys are going to do. I think generally, I don't think they're evil guys. I mean, I think whenever you get into raising a lot of capital and doing playing the game at the level they are, I think there becomes a lot of different factors that start to influence decisions. And for us, we have the advantage to say, look, our North Star is literally like, how do we create a golden age for humanity? How do we build AI so that it actually is helping to empower that outcome, and everything else is secondary? Like to us, like, look, if I want to just be, and I know you were on Wall Street for, a good amount of your career, just in terms of reading your background, it's like, If we wanted to just make money, we'd just be on Wall Street, right? Because that's what they do there. They just focus on making money. But we're actually here because we're interested to be pioneers, like building the new world. It's already being built. It's not a question of like, is this world going to be built or not? It's like, no, it's already happening. We're already there. We're already standing in that new world. Now we can look over in the old world and we can see that it's crumbling and collapsing and there's chaos and there's war. And then we can look forward and say, look, the good news is that we're building a better world. We actually already are. The question is, can we build it fast enough so that as that world collapses, we already have the new world that we can move people into and say, look, there's a new dimension of reality that you can exist in right now today. You can move into it right now. That's to me like the focus.
I like the way you put that. Yeah, I was in the old world, moving into the new. Actually, I'm here. I joined in 2017, so and it's been a wild ride so far, but I love it. So, creative industries. I want to talk about it a little bit more. AI is going to have a role in creative industries. We already see it. You already working in it, right? And that new future. What does that new future have in store for creatives who are working on Wall Street now, who should be here instead? And will there be a need for, I guess that's a second question, but a fairly trained AI, whatever that means.
Well, the first question, it's funny. I'm actually reminded of, I had a business partner many years ago who was a former executive director at Goldman Sachs. And he worked on, they had a trading system that was the gold standard when the whole meltdown happened in 2008. And I think that everybody, when everything collapsed, everybody looked at what Goldman had built, and that was the standard. And a good friend of mine helped to architect that project. At one point, though, he was studying a lot about the core of just existence and became very spiritual. And he looked at music and he realized that essentially like that was it. Like, and so he literally left Goldman Sachs and he went into making music. And so there's something to be said about, just in terms of your question about people on Wall Street who should be in that creative world. And it's like everything is frequency and everything is energy. And this is scientific. It's not just like, whoa, whoa, yeah, I live in California. And I am definitely a bit woo. There's no question about that. I'm wearing a freaking cowboy hat with a bandana on it, right? So we know that. But if you break it down scientifically, everything is frequency and everything is energy. And so when we understand that, it's like, okay, well, as humans, like what can we do that's greater than actually going and creating stuff that affects the frequency and energy of the planet? And that has to do with consciousness. And I know this is like going down a total rabbit hole, but it's like, you look at how do we affect consciousness of humanity? How do we affect the collective consciousness? And I think the arts, we look at music, we look at film, we look at television, we look at gaming. Like these are the things that, that I think really have the potential on a mass level to affect the consciousness of humanity. So going forward and looking at how can AI now as an enabler, as a tool, be able to empower like people and I still own a media company. We still have projects in that sector. It's not as much where I spend 99% of my time in Raiinmaker and in tech now, but we still do have a few projects that we're doing and that we're passionate about. We're still passionate about telling stories, but so many people in that industry, in my I would say my former industry, but my other industry that I'm in, are very scared right now. They're very scared. They look at AI and they're frightened. And to me, what I'm like, look, guys, the reality is the genie's out of the bottle. There's no going back. So what you have to do is you have to say, how can this be used as a tool to empower me as an individual, instead of saying, oh, I don't have my job, like, carrying stuff around as a grip and setting up this and this. And it's like, no, but if you wanted to create stories and tell stories, like you can use AI now and be able to, and pretty soon you'll be able to make a 2-hour movie that's as good as something that could have been produced for $75 million by a studio, and you'll be able to do it with a prompt, or with a script that is actually just generating it, right? And so I am excited about that future. I think it's scary and it's hard because there's going to be a transitional period, but like that's the nature of evolution. Like we're not meant to be cogs in a wheel as humans. We are inherently creators. I think each one of us is endowed with that power as the creator. And I'm not religious, but I'm saying I believe that we all have that inside of us. And so I think AI has the potential to unlock that. And I think, is there going to be a transitional period? Is there going to be some some struggles, some strife, some adversity. Absolutely, 100%. But at the same time, I think on the other side of that is the potential for that golden age where humans, creative potential is actually brought out to the fullest, like maximum degree. Oh,
You
and you
said
asked
it.
me one other part. You asked me one other part about how do you train a fair model. And I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's something to be said. I mean, look, I think that you look at where is that confluence of Web3 and AI and where they actually have utility that really makes sense. And that's just something that we talk about a lot. Like, we're not just saying like, AI blockchain to like ride some sort of hype wave, but it's like, where is the actual real synergy between AI and Web3? Where does one complement the other and vice versa? I think when you look at model training and understanding that the quality of the model is 100% dictated by the quality of the data that's used to train it. And so when you understand, data in, data out, and the ability for blockchain to basically monitor and immutably have a record of states that exists for a model. So let's just say we train a model with a bunch of your podcasts, and they're your podcasts, and this is your model, right? This is Jamil's podcast model. Like, if somebody wants to use that model to generate an AI version of a podcast, then the blockchain would be able to have a record of that. And maybe if there's some sort of compensation that fractionally should come back to you because you train a model with all this content that was your content, I think that's where there could be an application or a use in this kind of transitional period as we're moving, because again, it's, the way that deals have been struck with unions and studios and whatnot, there's going to be a transitional period to get to a place where, AI does, fully, I think, take over, the many facets of the process that it's going to take over, just because inherently it should, because it's more efficient and can produce a higher quality result. But I think that in that transition to that, it's about saying, okay, if we're going to train a model with, all of the screenplays of this writer, or we're going to train a model with all of the works of this director or this, fill in the blank, is there a world where, blockchain can help to be that layer, that immutable settlement layer that ensures that if someone's going to come and they're going to leverage that model, then whoever contributed to that model should be compensated fairly, for it being, used to generate this new piece of art, or this new piece of content. So I think that we're going into a world where we absolutely should and have that. Especially, I mean, my father's a musician. He was a drummer. I don't know if you heard of a band called Chicago, but he was the drummer of the band Chicago. So it's like going forward with music, it's kind of like taking what happened with sampling, which fortunately artists were able to still make money as that was happening with electronic music and whatever. And it's like taking that on steroids. Imagine people are going to be generating, music with just AI, which people are creating some amazing stuff so far, like really cool. And I don't think we should like stop that. But if they're going to use, existing musicians' work, then there should be some way to like compensate those folks that created the original works, which I think you should want to. Like, you should want to take Jimi Hendrix, the beauty that is Jimi Hendrix guitar work, or another fill in the blank musician, and be able to imbue a model with that, and then be able to have that inform. Like, imagine like, the majesty of the music that can be created when you think about all of the greats and being able to merge them into one like super AI to create the most amazing music that anyone's ever heard. To me, that sounds beautiful. But then also the people that were creating the original stuff, you got to make sure they're compensated on some level, right, or in some way. And I think that's where, that when we talk about training fair AI, I think we have to go, go down that path in terms of like thought process.
I wasn't going to ask this question, but now I have to. At the end of July, I'm going to the Earth, Wind, and Fire and Chicago concert in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Is your father going to be on tour with on that tour?
No, so he was the founder and original drummer. He left the band in 91. So from like 67 to 91, so all the hits, he was there. But he still tours. He has a current band called CTA he tours with, which if you're on the East Coast, I'll let you know, because they're amazing. They play a lot of Chicago stuff and other stuff, and he plays a lot with like Robbie Krieger from the Doors, and yeah, he's a cool guy. He's real down to earth. If you're ever in LA, or he's actually in Vegas, we can link you guys up. I was very fortunate to have him as a dad. So
Very cool, very cool. So let's talk about this concept that you brought up earlier that I'm intrigued about, because you said in our lifetimes we never lived through the Renaissance. I think the Renaissance was like in the 1200s or 1300s. I'm not that good in history, right? Um, I would love to see a new Renaissance, right? So to get the wider adoption of AI to create that, and blockchain to create that Renaissance, what do you think the keys of the castle are going to be? With the intersection of the two, with the stand, how do you think that's going to play out, and what needs to happen in order for us to have that Renaissance?
Well, I mean, I think if you kind of take them individually and look at them for a second, like AI gives us the ability to create almost anything that we want, whether it's creative, even software. If tomorrow, Jamil, you're like, I want to basically build an app that does this. I mean, you could freaking go, and AI could get you pretty far down the field, even if you didn't have any coding ability, right? So the ability for the individual human to create whatever it is, that dream, that, I'm one of those people that my belief has always been that each one of us has a divine spark inside of us. And once we get off of the bottom of what we call Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So you get down out of like, what am I going to eat? Am I safe? Where am I sleeping tonight? And you get up to like, okay, that's all taken care of. Like, now, why am I here? That self actualization at the top, like, I am this. Now it's like, okay, I am fill in the blank. Now I want to create this and give it to the world. I believe that's how we create heaven on earth, is we get as much of humanity as possible to that place, actually creating what they're here to create. That's how we build the new world. And that's really what it's not Jeff Bezos being like one man army. Here, I created the new world, guys, sponsored by Amazon. That's not the answer. The answer is like, billions of humans across the planet co-creating a new world together. And so AI, I think, is one component. Now, when you look at blockchain, you look at cryptocurrency, we're talking about global currency that can empower. Like, half the planet is still not on the old banking system. They're still not like banked. I mean, and if you go back to the origins of the whole movement around crypto and blockchain, it was really about like, banking the unbanked was one of those things that was like, hey, our responsibility is to take half the planet that's on the sidelines and to bring them into the game. And I'm a believer that when you can do those two things, which is empower that other half of the planet with the tools to create whatever it is they want to create with AI, and to have the financial capability to actually not be mired in this, like, where am I getting a handful of rice and I'm not even in the global economy? I mean, I think that's the recipe for the Renaissance, that together right there.
That sounds good, and it's achievable too. So,
Yeah, I mean, and it's not going to be perfect. Look, I mean, Jamil, it's not like we don't wave a magic wand and this isn't a Disney movie and Tinkerbell's just going to make it happen. But I walk around like the energy that I choose to carry is as if it's already happened. I don't walk around like, oh, the world. I don't want to swear on your podcast, but the world is effed up or whatever, and we can't do anything about it. And it's really hard for me not to swear, by the way, Jamil. So the fact that I've restrained myself that's a big win for today. But I walk around and I carry the energy like this is already done. Like we're building the new world. People like you, people like me, people in our collective industry, the good ones especially, like we're already doing it. It's not a question of if it's going to happen. It already is. And so I think that's hopefully that there's enough of us that that carry that frequency, that's the world that we create.
awesome, and it's perfectly fine to swear on my podcast. So, um, I want to thank. Yeah, I really enjoyed this conversation. I I want to thank you very much for speaking with me today, and I love the vision of that world. So it's pretty cool. So, I have one last question. It's easy. How can people find out more information about you, about Raiinmaker? How can they start to use, your apps? How can they get involved? How can they do that?
Yeah, so go to Raiinmaker.com with two eyes. You'll be able to get plenty of information there. You can join as a validator right now on there's a link on the website, but coin.ai is where folks are deploying or creating their validator node accounts, which anyone in the world with a computer, desktop or laptop computer can run a validator node on coin.ai. It's super easy. Anyone can do it. Also, you can download the Raiinmaker app on iOS or Google Play, and on there you're able to earn various cryptocurrencies for training AI. And you're also able to run a deep pin validator node on your mobile device. So any mobile device on the planet, you can, actually participate in this decentralized AI revolution with Raiinmaker there. Follow us on X, at Raiinmaker app. There's also Discord and the usual, but you should be able to find all that through the website. I think that's the best place to start your journey, into the Raiinmaker universe.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you, Jamil.